The desert sang at midnight on Route 42, not with wind, not with coyotes, with a thin human whistle from a mile of dead road. People called it the Whisper Mile. They said if you answer, something answers back. My name is Eli. I drive nights for a parts distributor between Gallup and Holbrook. Long straights, empty stations, heat that hangs even after dark. I first heard the whistle in July. Hot air, asphalt soft under my tires. The radio died to static. Then the tone cut through the cab like a sewing needle through cloth. Clear, steady, human. Old-timers warned me at the diner in Sanders. Do not stop on the Whisper Mile. Do not roll your window down. Do not answer a whistle with your mouth or your horn. Keep your eyes on the white line and keep moving. I laughed once. I do not laugh now. A Navajo mechanic named Thomas told me more. He said the mile sits on old campground. A convoy stalled there in '63. Heat stroke took a boy. The search went wrong at night. Men whistled to each other across the flats. They followed the wrong whistle. The boy never came back. After that, whistles came from the wrong direction. Phones died. Engines quit. If you answer, it learns your sound. Then it keeps it. I nodded. I filled my thermos. I drove anyway. Work needed doing. Bills needed paying. The Whisper Mile sits between mile marker 118 and 119. No lights, no shoulders. Mesquite and Cholla crouch on both sides like low watchers. The road dips, then climbs, then levels into a flat that goes on too long for a map that short. The first time the whistle came from the passenger seat, though the window was up. It held one note for 5 seconds, slid down a half step, then rose again. The air felt thick, like a room before a storm. I did not answer. I kept to the white line. The note followed just behind my ear, as if the seat fabric remembered someone else leaning there. At mile 118.4, my truck lost power. Not a stall, a sag. The tach fell. The pedal went soft. I coasted. The whistle got louder. I gripped the wheel and counted without thinking. 1 to 10, 10 to 1. I would not open my mouth. I would not. Then a second sound. A long exhale from the floorboards, drier air than the night outside. It smelled like old canvas left in a trunk. I looked down. The passenger footwell had dust on it that had not been there at the last gas stop. Footprints drew themselves in that dust as if a child sat there swinging his legs. Heel, toe, heel, toe. I did not look again. I watched the white line. The radio popped back on. Hank Williams cut through static, then went thin, as if he sang from a far hallway. The whistle dropped away when my speed picked up. At 119, the truck took a breath and ran clean. I parked at the next station, hands shaking so bad I spilled coffee. Thomas stood under the canopy like he had been waiting. He saw my face and nodded. He handed me a small pouch tied with red thread. Corn pollen. Pinch some and tap it on your dashboard at the mile, he said. Do not talk. Do not whistle. Do not think of names. For 3 trips, the pouch worked. At the start of the mile, I tapped the dash. The whistle faded. The truck held steady. The footprints did not draw themselves. I started to believe the mile needed respect more than fear. Then August came. Heat doubled back after sunset. Mirage shimmered in my headlights on dry road. At 118.1, I saw a shape in my lane. A man, thin, shirt loose on bone. He walked with that slow roll you see in people who have been in the sun too long. He did not turn his head when my lights took him. He lifted his arm and made a small circle with his wrist, like someone winding up a rope. I swerved left. No shoulder, only prickly pear. I swerved right. The shape did not change. It slid with my correction like a stain on my windshield. No features, no shadow, just a man-shaped absence where light should have been. I hit the brakes too hard and stopped dead in the center of the mile. The engine idled, the radio died, the whistle began. Not outside, inside the cab, right at my left ear, like a child leaning close to test a note against my breath. I reached for the red thread pouch. My fingers shook. I spilled most of the pollen across the dash. Some of it drifted and stuck to the windshield in the shape of a small hand. 5 prints. Tiny. Then those prints slid downward on the glass as if a palm dragged. The man shape stood at the hood now. It leaned, not heavy, curious. The whistle climbed up a step, then another. Then it matched the pitch of my blow-off valve when I tapped the pedal. My truck answered with a soft sigh of air. The thing learned the sound. It held that note like it held its breath, waiting for me to help. A phone buzzed under the seat. Not mine. I keep mine in my pocket. The buzz came from low and right, where a person would forget a phone when they climbed out too fast. It lit the footwell pale blue. The screen showed a lock screen photo of a kid in a baseball cap. The battery read 1%. The wallpaper time said 12:01. The little handprint on the glass above it fit the face on the screen too well to be a mistake. My mouth opened before I knew I would speak. "Do you need help?" I tried to say, but my throat closed at the door. Sound came out anyway, not words. Air. Enough. The whistle answered it like a flute answers a breath, quick as a mirror. Now it had my tone. It held it, proud. It pushed it back at me from 6 inches away. That was when I understood Thomas exactly. If you answer, it learns you. If it learns you, it can come find you later. Cars move. People move. The mile does not. So it takes your sound and waits for midnight anywhere. I said nothing else. I closed my lips tight. I tapped the dash twice with what pollen stuck between my fingers. The whistle dropped. The small handprint paused on the glass. It lifted. The phone in the footwell went black. The man shape at the hood unrolled like smoke in reverse. Nothing stood there, only heat ripples. I put the truck in gear. I rolled to 119 and kept going. I did not look in the mirrors. At Holbrook, I checked under the passenger seat. No phone, no dust. My floor mat looked new. I sat with my head against the wheel and breathed until my hands stopped shaking. Thomas listened without interrupting. He walked to a drawer and took out a tin. He pressed it into my palm like he had waited years to hand it to someone. Inside lay a small bone flute, carved from something old and smooth. It had 5 holes. The surface held tiny notch marks like someone kept count and ran out of places to mark. "Do not blow it," he said. "Not once, not even to test. If the mile whistles you awake in your bed, hold the flute and tap the table 5 times. Then put it outside your door before midnight. Do not open the door. Do not ask questions. In the morning, the flute will be cold. Return it." 3 nights later, the mile came to me in Winslow. Not the road, the sound. I woke at 12:01 a.m. in a rental with thin walls and a swamp cooler that clacked every 5th cycle. The room held that heavy air I knew from the cab. The whistle came from the vent. Clear, steady. My tone, my breath. It had found me. I did not speak. I reached for the tin under my pillow. I took the flute out and set it on the nightstand. It felt cool, then warmer with my hand. I tapped the table 5 times. Slow, even. The whistle paused between the 3rd and 4th tap like a creature tilting its head. The air in the room leaned. Not wind. Weight. curious again. I stood. I opened the door. I placed the flute on the welcome mat. I shut the door. I locked it. I sat back on the bed and put my hands flat on my knees. I breathed. I did not count. On the other side of the door, something bent down, not heavy, dry fabric sound. A small exhale like a child who has learned not to cry out loud. The whistle moved from my vent to the hallway. Then it bent once more, lower, like someone kneeling. The flute made one soft note without breath, a memory of a note, then silence. I woke at 7. The flute lay where I put it, cold. A fine white crust rimmed the holes like salt. On the wood of the door frame, 5 small marks had been scratched, all the same length, like a child's tally. I drove straight to Thomas. He took the flute without touching the holes. He tapped the tin twice, then wrapped it in a cloth. He looked at my face a long time. "That should hold it," he said. "For you." For a while. But the road keeps asking, and the asking needs answers. I asked him what I could do that helped without feeding it. He told me this. If I heard the mile ask for anyone else, I should pull over beyond 119 and leave water. If I found anything in my cab that was not mine, I should place it at the shrine by the old cottonwood near mile 121. People leave shoes there, phones, hats. They disappear by dawn. Maybe the mile knows its own. Maybe families get something back. He did not promise. He did not smile. That night, between 118 and 119, the whistle came again. Not to me, to someone ahead. I saw taillights stalled in the dip, a compact car, hazard lights off, the driver door open. A woman stood in the lane with her hands up like she meant to calm a dog. She turned her head towards some sound I could not hear. She started to whistle. I laid on my air horn, not a rhythm, one long blast that shook the mesquite. The woman flinched. She covered her ears. The whistle in the air cut, then tried to mimic the horn and failed. Wrong shape, wrong lungs. It broke into thin shreds of sound and drifted. I rolled to her bumper and idled. I did not open my window. I held a bottle of water out of the crack and nodded twice. She took it with both hands like she had been thirsty for hours. I pointed to 119 with my chin and rolled. She followed. At the marker, the car coughed and lived. Her face cracked then with a small laugh that had too much fear in it to sound like anything else. She pulled over beyond the mile and cried with her forehead on the wheel. I stood by my truck and watched the flat, and the flat watched me back. No sound, no shape, only heat. We said little. I told her to leave anything odd she found under her seat at the Cottonwood Shrine. I told her about the phones and the shoes. She nodded too fast. She left. I stood there with the sun not yet up and thought about a boy in 63 and a convoy and men who whistled to each other in the dark and walked the wrong way. The next week, I found a phone under my passenger seat again. Same pale blue light. The lock screen showed the kid in the cap. Battery at 1%. Time stuck at 12:01. I did not touch it. I drove to the Cottonwood at 1:21. At the base lay hundreds of things. Phones that would not turn on. One boot. A map with a route marked in yellow that stopped in the middle of nowhere. I placed the phone on the pile and set the tin with the flute beside it. I stepped back. A wind came across the flat that did not touch the leaves. Dry, sheet dry, like laundry in an old house. The pile settled as if someone small lay down in it to rest. The tin clicked once, then all was still. I still drive nights. I still cross the whisper mile. The radio still dies there. The whistle tries once in a while. I do not answer. If I feel my own tone press my ear from the vent at home, I tap my table 5 times and put the flute outside. In the morning, it is cold again. Sometimes there are 5 fresh marks on the frame. No more, no less. If I see someone stalled, I lead them past 119 and give them water and point them to the cottonwood. Some take the advice, some do not. The desert is patient. It asks the same question every midnight. It waits for someone to answer wrong. If a road whistles your name at midnight, keep your mouth closed. Keep your eyes on the white line. Do not answer. If something learns your sound, it will come looking. Names belong to the living. Sounds do too. Subscribe for more original horror stories.